Jesus stepped onto that boat just as he was. He had a mission to Gentiles on the other side. Jesus and the disciples with the other boats around them weren't out for a joyride on the sea. They weren't out to catch some more fish. They were heading from one area that they had known, heading out into the Gentile territory to continue on with God's holy mission. There once was a dangerous seacoast where shipwrecks pretty readily occurred. And on that seacoast, there was a tiny life-saving station that's sole purpose originally was to save lives. All that they existed for was to be present and to be on the search for lost folks at sea. The building was simply a tiny hut. There weren't any amenities with it. There was one little boat, and there were a couple of devoted crew members who would keep watch constantly over the sea. And with no thought for themselves, they would go out day and night tirelessly searching for the lost. And many lives were saved by this wonderful little station, so it became famous pretty quickly. Some of those who were saved and various others in the surrounding area wanted to become associated with the station, and they wanted to give some of their life and their money effort to support the work. That was a good, worthy outreach cause, don't you know? New boats were bought with this money, and new crews were trained. They had better, more thorough training, and this little tiny life-saving station grew. Now, some of the members of the life-saving station were unhappy. I mean, that's like any group, right? I mean, you get a group of people together, some are happy and some are unhappy. They were growing in numbers, and some were unhappy because the building was crude and poorly equipped, and they had this great training now, and they had new sparkling boats with better equipment, and the building was just awful. It was bad to pull up to and look at. They felt that a more comfortable place should be provided as the first refuge of those who were saved from the sea, right? So they replaced the emergency cots with beds. That's well and good. They put better furniture in the enlarged building. Now the life-saving station became a really popular gathering place for its members. They weren't just coming in to save lives. They would come in and have coffee and tea and all sorts of fellowship with one another. They decorated it beautifully. They furnished it exquisitely because they used it kind of as a clubhouse now. Fewer members were now interested in going out onto sea, and when those calls came in, they were busy taking care of the dishes and the fine cutlery and making sure that things still looked lovely. They had now hired out lifeboat crews to do this work, so they could come in and they could visit with their friends, and the crews could take care of it. The life-saving motif or theme still really prevailed in the club's decoration, and they were good. They were even, the head of the committee decided with the board that they would have a liturgical lifeboat in the room where the club initiations were held. That makes good sense, right? Where you were initiated, you came in, and you were there with one of the original lifeboats. About this time, when they were all well and good and they had the lifeboat preserved and ready for the initiations, about this time, a large ship was wrecked off the coast, and they were having a big gala at their life-saving station. The hired crews brought back in boatloads of cold, wet, half-drowned people. They were having a big gala at the life station. Everyone was there in their finest. It was lovely. They felt like they had a good outreach going on. And all of a sudden, there were dirty and sick people, men, women, and children. Some of them had black skin. Some of them had yellow skin or brown skin. The beautiful new club was considerably messed up getting all those folks cleaned up and taken care of. So the Buildings and Grounds Committee, as what happens, the Buildings and Grounds Committee had a really fast meeting. They got together and they had their best people on it. They had a shower house built outside the club where victims of shipwrecks could be cleaned up before coming inside. That makes sense. I can see that. At the next meeting, there was a split in the club membership, though. Most of the members wanted to stop the club's life-saving activities as being unpleasant. It was really getting to be a hindrance upon the normal social life of the club. Some of the members insisted upon life-saving as their primary purpose. Don't you know? This is where we came from. This is what our purpose is. And they pointed out that they were still called, after all, a life-saving station. But they were finally voted down and told that if they wanted to save the lives of anyone in the waters, they were welcome to do so. But why don't they go down the beach a ways and build a new clubhouse? They did. They just didn't call it a clubhouse. As the years went by, the new station experienced the same kind of changes that had occurred in the old station. It evolved into a club-like mentality, and Another life-saving station was then founded further down the beach, and the history continued to repeat itself on, and the legend is that if you visit this coastline today, you're going to find a number of exquisite clubhouses that started out as life-saving stations because they forgot their purpose. Jesus on that boat in the Galilean Sea was not out there for a joyride. He wasn't out there to help them catch fish. He was out there for a purpose, and before he got to the other side of the lake for his purpose to help bring Gentiles to God and help them show the way to the God of love, he needed some rest. And he fell asleep in that boat. And his disciples come into chaos, and they say, "Don't you care that we're perishing?" And of course he cares that they're perishing, but our God is a gentle God, and our God would rest until asked upon. God is with us in the chaos and in the calm. But we get to remember our purpose. Oftentimes I think that it's easy in the life of my own spirituality, is in the life of a church setting, that we can forget what our purpose is. Waves and storms shift our perspective. I know in my own life that when this perspective is shifted enough, I can get kind of anxious, I can get kind of panic-stricken, and I can deter from my divine purpose. I can quickly forget. I was talking with someone between the services. What my purpose is to be of service, not this kind of service, like the service of the church. This is good too. But my purpose in life is I think many of ours is as followers of Jesus, is to be of service to one another. And when I get too worried about things in the future or too anxious about the past or whatever's happening right now, I can really forget my purpose. Or I can say things to myself like, my purpose is important, serving people is important, but we better get this tended to right away. Or if only we had more of this, we'd be okay. And so let's focus our attention there. What the disciples did was they turned to Jesus. They turned to God in troubled times, and they chose to remain with love. And they chose to allow God to keep their boat moving to the other side, so that they could continue serving the Lord along with Jesus. They were willing to go to Jesus, not in the best way. Don't you care that we're perishing? That's part of our human frailty. But they reached out to God. Jesus made the ocean, the waves calm, the storm peaceful, and their boat got to the other side, where later we'll hear about Jesus' mission with them, with Gentiles, where they got to work, and they got to work God's mission of loving all and including all at God's table. So my prayer for us today is that we as a faith community may always remember to be at peace with our purpose and to be ready to continue moving into our purpose. Amen.